Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very glad that we're having this discussion. I do think that the NDS has been very useful in focusing the energies of the Department of Defense and the rest of government, this body included. And I look forward to hearing more from the witnesses on how we can improve upon the implementation of NDS. But I do think that there are some blind spots within the NDS as it is. And I'd like to discuss how DoD will address these shortfalls. So some of the deficiencies I notice are that the NDS devotes significant space to addressing the need to build a more lethal and agile force, but it spends very little time addressing the vital resources that would be needed to project power and sustain that power during a conflict, things like rail cars and transport ships. Secretary Rood and General Alvin, would you support developing a supplemental or addendum to the NDS that focuses on developing resilient transportation networks and logistics systems that can survive in contested environments?
Well, Senator, you certainly make a great point about the centrality and the importance of transportation and logistics is sort of a historical redheaded stepchild, and we can't afford that. So yes, ma'am. What I would say is that what we have done, largely in response to the National Defense Strategy, is we have put increased emphasis on the transportation piece, and I think you've noticed that on the sea lift, the Navy is looking toward how they might recapitalize for sea lift to be able to have a more relevant capability to project power. I think you mentioned, though, in contested environments and how we would make sure to protect our power projection. I will tell you that in our readiness reviews for some of our larger operations plans, where I talked about in my opening statement about the Global Integrated Base Plan, we're really looking at the real costs and real risks overall, and that power projection, for the first time, I would say in decades, we have looked at how one might project power under contested environments. So things like identifying which I won't go into anymore at this classification level, but we'll be happy to follow up with you. Things about areas in which we would want to have physically and harden and increase resilience in cyber in nodes and ports, as well as understanding the potentiality for attrition of those forces while they're being deployed into theater. So the idea that the logistics and transportation enterprise is really starting to move up in the position of importance, I would say, is a positive trend. And I think we've been able to see those when we look at the larger globally integrated base plan. So I would say that there is attention being paid, and there is significant work being done by U.S. Transportation Command, supported by our Joint Staff J4, about how we would want to look at which nodes to harden, which capabilities, not only to get to the theater, but intra-theater as well. So I would say, looking at it, even though it's not specifically in pen and ink in the strategy, there's been a lot of effort going to, that reflects that reality.
Yes, but that's my point. It's not in pen and ink, and that's a problem because it can be overlooked. I mean, the Navy's Ready Reserve Fleet is nowhere near ready. And in fact, over a dozen of those ships have lost their Coast Guard safety certification. I don't think we have enough rail cars. I don't think we have enough heavy lift or tank or refueling. It's not just ocean going, but it's also air capability and ground capabilities as well. So are you saying that you don't think we need an addendum to the NDS moving forward to really focus on these issues?
Well, Senator, I don't have an opinion whether it should be in the NDS addendum. I do absolutely concur with the fact that it needs to have increased attention, and I would actually, I guess I'm trying to convey that it has more attention than one might think, that we actually are identifying those as we speak, but I don't have a particular opinion as to which product it should be in that would ensure that accountability for ensuring that those ideas and those initiatives move forward.
But I haven't seen a similar level of investment in these capabilities. I see the investments in things like long-range precision fires and submarines and strike aircraft, all of which I fully support. But what I haven't seen is a corresponding rise in investments in the less flashy but still critical transportation and logistics systems. And I think that this is going to lead us to a more lethal force, which is good, but much more unsustainable and fragile in many ways because we can't sustain the lethality that we have. So if you don't think that we need to write this down, will you at least commit to reversing the trend to align and try to align future budgets with all of NDS's aims, including the logistical support, the sustainability and the security of the logistics network.
Actually, Senator, that certainly is part of the thought process, that we actually, when we look at the entirety of what it takes to execute the national defense strategy, that is part and parcel to it. And that's why when I mentioned these readiness reviews, they are designed to suss out the specifics rather than just in general, we need more of X or Y. Understanding which of those are the most critical that we can put those investments in early on to make the biggest difference the soonest is where we're headed. So I guess we're trying to convey that we are putting attention to it.
I'm not seeing it in the budget request, though. And that, to me, is the ultimate. I mean, you can say that all you want, but you still have over half of your ready reserve fleet is over 40 years old, and you know, most of them are going to reach operational life within the next 15 years. You don't have enough tankers. You don't have enough, you know, you can't even transport stuff on rail cars across Europe in the way that we need to be able to. And how are we going to be active in the Asian Pacific region if we don't have the capability? And I don't see that same focus in terms of, hey, we need to spend money here like we do on the F-35. As much as we love the F-35, how are we going to support it? I'm out of time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.